And we're live. Sorry. Yeah. Your true voice is not something you're ever going to hear.
Yeah. It's really bizarre hearing your voice on this. So
It is.
I have to get used to that.
Yeah, we were just testing the mic a second ago, and it's weird to hear your voice. Yeah. Yeah, you're hearing your voice from the inside
Right.
of your brain or the inside of your head. But when you record and then you hear it back, you're actually picking it up what it actually says. So you're hearing it through your ears. I feel like that's what it is.
I'm going to go with that. I push the I believe button.
I know.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. What's up, guys? Roy here on the Balanced Meal Podcast, and I have a rad dad today to talk to, Nick Parrish. Go ahead and say hi.
How's it going, everyone?
Mm-hmm. Nick has been a listener of the show, and it's interesting because I did teach your daughter, so this is interesting.
Both of them. Yeah.
Both of
sort
them?
of. Well, see, actually, I don't know if Cece was in your class. She might have been too young, pre-K.
Nope. Yeah, and I don't know. So who knows? You might hear stuff that they said to you, and you're going to finally say it to me. You've been holding back.
Been holding back. You don't even know. Yeah, hopefully you got the bleep button ready. Those kids, man, they repeat everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Glad to have you on. I think the big thing I'm thinking about now is, it's Christmas. How's that going?
And I love Christmas. I'm kind of... we have a running joke in my family where my wife puts on Christmas music like the day after Halloween. Mm-hmm. And this year, I'm trying to out-Christmas her and make her sick of it. Because I usually get sick of it somewhere around the second week of December.
Really?
So every chance I get, Christmas music is on and full blast in my house. And I'm losing hard. But,
really?
Oh, the kids love it. I don't know. I'm not sick of it because I've been so proactive about playing it at loud volume to the max extent practical.
Good for you. I'm the opposite. I am not a big Christmas guy. I'm building new traditions is what I like to say now.
Atta boy.
Yeah. I worked in retail for most of my life. And then, I was talking about this today. We traveled so much on Christmas. Yeah. So my memories of Christmas and the holidays were always in a car with a dog and my two brothers.
Yeah, that sucks.
And then plus like working retail, and then you would hear the music right after Halloween, and it's the same 10 songs over and over again.
I've been discovering some better ones, but yeah, they're just variations of the same 10 songs.
I know, and no matter what people try to do, it's always the same. It's the same theme. You can only do so much with Christmas, right?
Yeah, and it'll be on at our house probably till Valentine's Day, but that's all right. I think I'll live. If it makes my girls happy, then I'm all right with it.
That's good. I enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, they have a couple of cool songs on there that they wrote. Kevin Bacon sings one of them.
What?
Yeah, you should.
Now I'm excited.
Yeah. See, I love the movies. I hate the songs. Christmas movies, I think, are pretty rad. So I'm always looking for new ones.
Man, I wish I could sit through a Christmas movie these days. I don't know if it's me getting old or just like working my butt off, but man, I put a Christmas movie on and I'm asleep in like 10 minutes.
Is it Christmas movie or just any movie?
Most movies. Most movies that my wife and I like, I will go to sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, she won't watch like adventure or, action, but she loves rom-coms. So we'll put those on and fall asleep.
Oh man, we watched the single most terrible Christmas movie ever last week. It's called Best Christmas Ever.
Ooh,
and
Hallmark?
it has Heather Graham in it.
Ooh.
And Brandy. Do you remember Brandy the singer? Yeah. And my wife is pretty easy to please. She was like, "This is terrible."
Yeah, my wife is an addiction to terrible Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh man!
And you know what's funny is my brother-in-law actually used to do some like side acting, and he's in a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Oh, he is?
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I will get it for you. And it is pretty epic. And we still to this day have a running joke about his second family, the Hallmark movie family.
Hallmark family.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, you should check out the Guardians of the Galaxy one. It has a nice blend of the comedy, action, and the Christmas.
I totally will.
Or Spirited. That was a good one. That was Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, Yes.
That's an Apple TV Christmas.
I have not seen that one yet.
Yeah, that came out last year.
Okay.
And then our new tradition there's this movie called Klaus, Klaus.
I saw that one.
We've watched that every year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, you're a closeted Christmas lover. I can tell.
I am. It's the romantic sort of story of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. In reality, I don't like it. I like watching it on the TV rather than experiencing it myself, I guess.
Yeah, working retail will suck the joy out of it.
I got cussed out because I didn't have any pumpkin pie filling one time.
Oh, man, we can't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all about those pumpkin spice lattes.
Dude, I'm telling you. People go crazy for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so I say I'm building new traditions is because I don't want to be a Grinch, and there's no point in like holding that on. And I have a kid now, and it's like,
yep,
they're excited, and I'm not going to want to ruin their fun. And my wife loves Christmas too, so it's...
Yep.
Anyway, building new traditions. It's going good.
Totally, yeah. I think we might be putting a fork in a tradition. We go to the Nutcracker every year, and this year was painful. My 5-year-old, let's just say she has the attention span of a gnat, and the movie or the show was rough.
Oh man, I bet.
Yeah, she was all over the place.
Oh,
I almost wanted to like take her and go do something.
It feels like that needs to be like once every 3 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I could probably do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with like a couple beers as well. Probably help.
Beers help everything.
Just like way overpriced beers at the play.
There's you should try going to 43rd Street at the north end and walking to the Cavalier with all their lights. That's pretty fun. That's a fun tradition.
That is. Yeah, I haven't been to the Cavalier in forever. I love going to the Hunt Room. That place is awesome.
Mm-hmm. With the smoked old fashions.
It's the best drink ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Cavalier's great. The Raleigh Room's fun.
Yeah. We usually hang out there until we get into the Hunt Room. It's been so busy lately. You can't get in that place.
Really?
Yeah. It's always packed. You can go sit at the bar if you're lucky, but...
Yeah, the Raleigh Room makes me feel like I'm transported back.
Yeah.
It's like the 40s or something.
It's like the Great Gatsby there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The place is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I dig it. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I haven't been there since the summertime. I mean, that sounds like such a long time ago.
Feels like it now.
Anyway, but yeah, Cavalier, Hunt Room. Go to their lights. And also, there's this house over on Starfish Road, over across the Lesnar Bridge. And they have one of those, like, the lights are connected to music, and you, like, tune to the FM radio station.
Nice.
You could sit there for, like, 20 or 30 minutes. It's really funny.
That's a good gouge. Yeah, I'll check that out.
I hope that street doesn't get overrun.
Yeah, you just let the secret out.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. All your thousands of listeners going to be there.
Anyway. So yeah. So good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So yeah, you're a dad. How many kids do you have?
I got 2 little girls, 5 and 7.
Man,
pretty awesome.
What's it like being a girl dad?
Well, I've let go a lot of my masculine tendencies. You just embrace the pink and sparkly.
Really?
And enjoy it. It's pretty awesome.
Was it hard in the beginning?
Well, yeah, I mean, I obviously wanted a son, and that didn't happen. But I am very happy with my 2 little girls. I just love the little cuddles, and it's just so much easier to love on them when they're little girls than it is a son. I imagine. I don't know, obviously. Mm-hmm. And they say you pay for girls on the backside. So not looking forward to the teenage years, but I'm hoping to at least grow our relationship to be so strong that it's not an issue. And I think they love their dad, so it's going all right.
Yeah, but that sounds like every parent wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
We're all afraid of the teenage years.
Yeah, Molly's 7, and every once in a while I get a glimpse. When she says something, I'm like, "What? Like, stop it!"
Yeah.
No, you're 7. Like, go back to coloring and like, sparkly unicorns. Don't think about a boy. Like, quit it.
Oh man, that's rough.
Yeah, fortunately, she still thinks boys have cooties. I may have helped that.
That's good.
Notion.
You should do. You got to do what you can now, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm fighting a good fight.
When I taught 4th and 5th grade, that's when I remember hearing girls talking about boys and drama. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I bet. The drama starts early.
It does. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. There was drama when I was for a couple of 4th graders. Oh, I just ran the class.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, it was rough. Oh, man. Anyway.
Those kids, boy. Get the fangs out. My kids are pretty good with each other. They lately have been nagging, but it's going all right. They squash it pretty quick.
Are they out of school already because it's private school?
Yeah, they're out of school. Blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
We went skiing up at Snowshoe this weekend.
Wow.
Got back yesterday, which was great. It was really cold and blizzarding, which was great for skiing, but the 5-year-old in the blizzard and the cold was not so great.
And Snowshoe's West Virginia?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like almost 6 hours from here. It's a long drive, but it's beautiful up country up there. I think it's around 4,000 feet. I wouldn't... Coming from California, they're not the same mountains, but they're definitely mountains. And Snowshoe's a weird one where the lodge is at the top of the mountain. So, like, you leave, you put your skis on, you immediately go down the hill. And then you ride up. Yeah, it's bizarre, but it was fun. There's definitely some lessons learned there. Ski school was great. Get the kids in ski school. Cece had a terrible time and did nothing but drink hot chocolate. Molly, I got her out of ski school and just had a proud parent moment where she was like, Dad, I want to go skiing with you. Let's go. And she had never been down even a green run. Ski school was just like bunny slopes.
Yeah.
And she just turned the corner and was like, just French fries straight down, full speed, and loved it every second of it. I couldn't even keep up with her.
So were you a big skier growing up?
No, I didn't start skiing until after I was married. So less than 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I've really taken to it. Skiing's a lot of fun. It's really easy too.
Yeah, I've had 2 knee surgeries, so I don't know if skiing's in my future.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah.
Though, skiing is, the way they do it is they attach your boots to the skis, and if you're kind of novice, they make it to where you slip out real easy. So, like, if you're gonna wipe out, you just kind of pull your foot out and you can stand. But once you get better, then you tighten them down and you don't come out as easy. In fact, this time I finally got my own skis, and they were moderately tight. And Cece, I was holding her between my legs going down this run, and she got a ski underneath mine somehow.
Ugh.
And I did the splits and like landed on top of her, holding myself up, and like literally could not get up. Doing the splits with skis on that wouldn't come off. It was brutal. Yeah, I had to roll off and damn near break one off. It was rough.
Yeah, I love the culture of skiing and snowboarding, and like the idea of being in a mountain in the snow and all of that. Yeah. And then you grow up watching the 80s ski movies, and it always looks like so much fun.
Yeah, it's really only fun once you can do it. But for an adult, I think it only takes like maybe a time or two, and you can at least do green runs. And green runs are always like super easy. And then the blues they're not hard.
Yeah, that's cool. I love also just the riding on the
chairlift.
The chairlift.
Yeah,
I was in we went to Big Sky a few years ago, Montana, but it was in the summertime. And you can still just ride the chair, and it's relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Not compared to the pass. The pass, because a friend of ours lives there, and she bought a pass for the season. It was like $1,600.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's nuts.
Jeez.
Unless you're like a resident local, and then it gets a little cheaper,
But just riding on the ski lift was pretty fun. You crack a couple beers. I had a great time.
Yeah, in the summers you can mountain bike down this. Like, I haven't done it yet, but I really want to. I love mountain biking, especially if you're going only downhill.
Yeah. So, man, you seem to love the adventures.
I do, yeah. I'm kind of a adrenaline junkie. Less now that I'm a parent, but...
Was that what you were doing as a kid? Or were you flying planes?
Yeah. I've always been a real adrenaline junkie. I take that back. So when I was really young in elementary school, I was kind of a timid kid. Like, my mom passed away when I was really young, like 6. And so for a while there, I kind of went inside myself, and not until my dad got remarried and I had like a stepbrother my age who was very outgoing did I come out of my shell. And once kind of my stepbrother and I started hanging out, and we did all kinds of crazy boy stuff. We ended up like saving up. My dad and I bought a $50 motorcycle at a garage sale, a Suzuki 150. It wouldn't start. It was just full of rust, and we cleaned it out, fixed it up, painted it, and it was still a hunk of junk, but it ran. And I started riding dirt bikes, and then ultimately upgraded to like a real dirt bike. Had a great time doing that and riding mountain bikes and scooters and skateboards and terrorizing the neighborhood. And then, my dad and that lady split. I really didn't talk to them much. Unfortunately, that side of the family didn't do so hot after they split. And then from then on, I was hooked. Right, played football and basketball and wrestled in high school, and then started flying aircraft when I was 16. And then went to college, flew aircraft, did the military thing in college. Was an avid scuba diver. So yeah, I've kind of always been a adrenaline junkie. Yeah.
Are you hoping that the girls pick up on some of that?
Yeah, I think I've come to terms with reality. Molly is, you remember Molly, she's very quiet. She's reserved. She's sweet, like very like rule follower, people pleaser, and doesn't really have an adventurous bone in her. I caveat that with I convinced her to skateboard, and now she loves it.
That's cool.
She's really good. And hopefully this airs after Christmas, but she's getting a skateboard for Christmas. So. Yeah. It's she's doing really good. She can skateboard on her own now, like longboard, cruise around the neighborhood, and it really helped her confidence. So
that's cool.
Cece is the opposite. She's a little daredevil, but she's got this like really whiny kind of bad attitude right now we're trying to break. But when she wants it, she does it. For example, riding bikes. Molly learned, and Cece, 2 years younger, was like, I'm going to learn too, Dad. And she just kept going and crashing. And finally it just clicked. And I've never seen a kid ride straight into a parked car so many times. But Cece just did not care. And I was super proud of her. But they're just polar opposites. And I think Cece's going to be my adventure. And I'll probably be able to do more active outdoor stuff with her. But like, while Molly's timid and quiet, she's very willing to please. So, we'll go do the ropes course, the adventure course over by us.
Yeah.
Love that. Biking, skateboarding, hiking. She's pretty good there. I think she's coming out of her shell.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about, one of the things we talked about, the birth stories. How was that? Was it, talk about that.
Yeah. So I think what's funny is, Molly was conceived at my sister's wedding, and 1 year later, on their first anniversary, they conceived their first child. So we have daughters that are exactly 1 year apart, which is pretty great.
And don't go to the parties.
Yeah, exactly.
Be careful.
We stay far apart now. Yeah, don't worry. 10 years of marriage, you learn the tricks of the trade. But yeah, so I think just that is one of the most touching experiences, right? Watching a child grow inside your wife and then be born into the world was just amazing. Every aspect of it just is a testament to like the woman's anatomy and their ability to like really a superpower to grow another human like that. I mean, and then once they're born, there's like super ability to, work on no sleep and breastfeed. I mean, all of that is incredible. Both of them. Where I was blessed that there were no medical complications in our childbirth, but like, man, I was just blown away by the whole thing.
Yeah, it's always wild to watch and to experience it. I mean, I'm always, even now, I'm amazed at the connection that like he has to her.
Yeah.
And just, you kind of like gain something from watching.
That's right.
The whole process. Were you very like hands off or hands on?
Oh no, I was in there the whole. I'm not at all squeamish.
Yeah.
So I was in there the whole time helping with everything, and it was just really cool to see the process. And I dare I say I enjoyed it a lot more than my wife. But
sure.
Then came the really hard part, the like infant never sleeping. I mean, you remember that? That was rough, no doubt. In fact. I was in the military and I went to SEER school. You familiar with SEER school? So it's really, they teach you, it stands for survive, evade, resist, escape. It's really teach you to survive torture. And, so part of that training is you spend some time in a simulated torture camp in a few days without food and sleep, and you start hallucinating. And I hallucinated when my kid was awake for all hours of the night, and I was sitting there with her, not allowed to sleep. Same exact experience I had at SEER school. It was kind of funny. Got to relive that experience all over again.
Yeah, you really you understand the need for sleep.
Yeah, it's a real thing. But I equate fatherhood to having higher highs and lower lows. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that the higher highs are well worth the lower lows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's interesting how, you start with no sleep, and then like it has that whole set of problems, and then you figure out how to work through that, and then they're on to a whole new set of things.
Yeah.
And then you figure that out, and it's like I think my wife said our life is seasonal now.
It really is.
It's like whatever it is, this is going to be weird, and we'll probably figure it out, and then in 6 months it's going to be something totally different.
Yeah, and what's interesting is every parent, you have something that you identify with. Where you've gone through this for the first time, and so have they. This shared experience, even if you don't see eye to eye on anything else, that guy has been in a rocking chair at 2:00 in the morning with a kid that would not stop screaming.
Yep.
And you got that in common. So you kind of have this mutual respect, and it makes it easier to talk to other parents.
Yeah, and I think it makes it easier. It makes it easier in public when you hear like crying. It's just not. There's more like as I've gotten older and had the kid, there's more empathy that comes rather than, oh my God, I wish that kid would stop crying.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's wild to watch like someone who doesn't have a kid or single people react versus like parents.
That's right. Yeah, I have a friend who just had a baby, and they had a baby under premature, under very rough conditions, and he's having a hard time with it. And I really feel for him, and I just try every time I talk to him. I want to say, listen, man, it's hard now, but trust me, you're going to look back on this. You're not going to remember the hard like you do now. And you're going to love the quiet moments when you have a sleeping baby. And that kid just trusts you implicitly with its life. And that bond that you form, I try to convey to him that it gets better. A lot better.
I like that you were talking about like the safety aspect. Just the first time he fell asleep on me, that feeling like, that they're like, they feel safe enough.
That's right.
To go to sleep. Oh my God. Yeah.
I know.
Even now, like I was putting him down and he just fell asleep with me, and
that's pretty great.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that like, you can't really explain to people.
No, you can't. You kind of have to experience it. And people won't believe you when you tell them.
Yep, they won't.
You got to live it.
Because I didn't. I've said this numerous times about my struggle with wanting kids and stuff, and once he was there, I forgot. I forgot why I didn't.
That's right.
Yeah. Now there's this kid, and I lay awake at night wondering about all the things I can't protect him from.
Oh, I do the same thing, and I just, what am I going to teach him today? What do I want to impart on them to prepare them for the hard parts of life that are going to hit them?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And then you go down the rabbit holes of stuff. We had a little scare. We were in Denver a couple weeks ago, and Denver Airport has a lot of the moving sidewalks, and they're like right next to each other.
Yep.
And so he's at the age where he's wanting to be a little bit more independent. And we're wanting to give him some independence and stuff. Like, we did this was pretty freaky, but we did it. I had to get something from, we were at a hotel, so my wife was in the lobby, and then I wanted to run up and get something, and I forget why. I think I needed to drop the key or something. Anyway, so my kid came with me. We went up to the elevator, and then I went up to I needed the key to get into the room anyway. So I went and I got in the room, and then we went back to the elevator, and I said, okay, we're going to open the elevator. You're going to go down to the L, and Mom's going to be right there. Do you understand? He was like, yeah. I was like, you're not going to get off for anybody else? You're not going to do anything? Nope. I got it, Dad. So then I put him in the elevator.
Oh, boy.
And let him go down the stairs or the elevator. And, I texted. My wife said, okay, he's here. Don't worry. But then, so we had that, and it was successful. And then we're on the movable sidewalks. And I misunderstood what I was supposed to do. So we went down the sidewalk, and we moved, and then he wanted to do it himself. And so I, for some reason, I'm an idiot. Instead of letting him go down and me wait, I went down and he waited. And all of a sudden, I'm just like, this was stupid. No. And it was one of those things where it's like, I don't see him anymore. And it was like, oh my God, this is those scenes in the movies. Oh my God. Oh, and, my wife was, it was just this, she was like, what are you doing? I can't, That's not what I said, but everything was fine.
Yeah.
But it was just, whew.
Yeah, my kids loved those people mover sidewalks. And they want to do the same thing. Yeah, I want to go out by myself. I said, okay, you can. I'm going to stay next to it, and we're going to walk the wrong way on it. Or they are. And just turned them loose on a basic free treadmill, and they loved it. And all the passengers were so annoyed walking down it. But I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, they are.
Two kids going the wrong way up the thing. It was hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, but he's fine. But, I won't do that again.
Yeah. I feel like you only have one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once that second one comes, the level of, I don't know how to say this nicely, you definitely loosen up. And you don't worry about it as much. Yeah. They call it second child syndrome, I guess. And I'm no expert, but you're not as worried. Like my kid routinely drives into parked cars on various vehicles. And she lives.
Yeah. I've heard that before. The second child syndrome.
Yeah.
I mean, we have friends that have 3 or 4.
Yeah. Good on them.
And watching that is you're just like, oh my gosh. It's like, how do you keep track of all the kids?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My friends who have multiple kids say it just gets easier with more. I'm like, I don't buy that for an instant. I have a friend with 6 kids now.
6?
He just won't stop.
I knew a guy whose brother had 8.
Oh man, yeah, that's real common in hardcore churches like that too.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember we had a couple church family friends that were like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Baby factories. Good for them. I think we're done. Well, obviously, when had the old airframe modification, but we're still trying for another.
Oh really? Oh okay.
No, that's a joke.
Oh. Yeah, we're one and done too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We did it. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I would love to have more children, but I don't think I have enough money nor enough time to deal with more kids and give them the attention that I think they deserve.
Yeah. So we were talking before. I don't want to forget this. That's why I'm bringing it up now about because I was a part of a pretty intense church, and you were saying you were a part of a pretty intense church.
Yeah.
Was it called the Calvary Chapel?
It was really the Calvary Chapel wasn't very intense. It's a great church. It was kind of just the one that we were at, and it was
in Virginia. Parents. Was it California or?
Yeah, it's California.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was the youth group was pretty invasive in my life, and I think what made it intense was the fact that I didn't really want to go as much, but I was kind of forced to.
Because your parents?
Yeah, well, my parents, after my mom died and my dad got remarried, they split up, and then he kind of really found himself in the church and wanted that for us. And I was in 9th grade, I was still scared of girls and wanted to play football and just do boy things. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, you're going to youth group. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So that's what made it hard. And then it was also very overbearing. Mm-hmm. You will go 4 days a week. And, you will go on these group dates and all this stuff. And there were some cool aspects of it. Uh-huh. I got to go on a really incredible backpacking trip with my boys' youth group on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevadas. Mm-hmm. It was a gnarly hike, man. I think we did it was 8 or 9 miles a day, which isn't crazy, but up in 10,000 foot mountains with pristine, crystal clear lakes, and it was a 4 or 5 day evolution. It was fun. I loved that aspect of it, but going there so often really drained me.
Oh, I bet.
And then the super awkward talks, and you remember that.
Yeah, what I didn't want to forget was this, so I was a part of the really intense church, and then I got a job at a coffee shop that was catered to churches. One of their big bread and butter was selling coffee to churches to serve in the mornings. Mm-hmm. So we would market at like Christian music festivals and things like that.
Yeah.
And so what I love hearing are stories like yours is because it makes me feel less special. It makes me feel like it wasn't just like my church that had this. Like were other churches that like felt the way I felt and had to go on weird dates. And
yeah, I don't think it was quite to the level of extreme. Yours was pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
But it was definitely like, it got to the part of it is, you know, as a parent, and I imagine my dad was probably in his 40s then, so he's a little bit older than I am now. He wants the best for his kid, and he thinks that being heavily involved in the church is the best. And like when you're in 9th grade, 10th grade, you're like, I want no part of this.
Yeah.
I want to live my life. I want to have fun. And I want to make crazy cool memories. And that's what I wanted for myself. And so the diverging hypotheses on what constitutes a full life kind of manifested there. And, you know, my dad and I saw eye to eye on most things my entire life, you know, until very recently we had kind of a falling out, but I don't know. We'll see what comes of it. But yeah, it was growing up like that was weird. The church can definitely be weird, but now, I mean, we go to Grace Bible, and I'm still a Christian. Like, I've definitely like shifted in my philosophy a little bit as it pertains to like creationism. I'm very analytically minded and have to back everything up with kind of evidence.
Yeah,
and so that makes it hard to grapple with like what is the essence of the Christian faith and faith, right? And so there's a lot of interesting scientific hypotheses as to creation and how it fits in with the scientific evidence we have. And I think there's enough evidence to make it plausible that the world was created. And I believe that. I choose to believe it. You know, obviously there's no definitive evidence either way. I don't think even the atheists have a great argument either. It's hard to see back that far.
Yeah, and I think faith is kind of like a choice, and when you think about it,
you're absolutely right.
You're choosing to believe in something.
Yeah, and that was a really hard thing, I think, for a lot of people to understand. You know, just marrying my wife before she was a Christian, and just constantly dragging her through church and everything. She kind of just would go through the motions and enjoy it, and then we had like the hard talk of like, well, what does it mean to believe? And you know, she thought faith meant that you had to truly understand and believe that is. There's everything points to Jesus dying on a cross and creation and the Bible. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot of evidence in science and the Bible that don't necessarily marry up perfectly. And so in order to believe that, it's not irrefutable proof that this is the way things are. You have to choose it. And I don't want to say that you got to choose to ignore facts, but you have to choose that you want that way to be the truth. And then investigate other possible hypotheses that apply to it.
Yeah, I think it's more about, I think when I think about like my faith now and where I've come and this, I kind of look at it as more the search is the point rather than the destination. So it's like the constant like thinking about this, and like I have this big belief that we're never going to find the answer right now. I don't feel like it just doesn't make, I don't know if it doesn't make sense to me. I just think that the answer is not the point. That's whether or not we're right or wrong. I think it's the search and how we let that transform our lives.
That's
sort
right.
of. Mm-hmm.
And that is somewhat how I view things, is that what are the benefits and the drawbacks to believing that Jesus died on a cross for our sins? The benefits are, if I'm right, it's going to be awesome after I die. And on this planet, I live a better life. What if I'm wrong? Then I'm going to be in the ground like everyone else, and I've lived a better life for it. So like, I see a lot of benefit and very little drawback to that. And, you know, that plays into it. And lately I've been doing a lot of research on like the various hypotheses of creation, because I get so hung up on the primary argument against God being that, well, you know, the Big Bang existed and, you know, we evolved. And there's very scant evidence to prove the Big Bang was ever a thing. And it is a pretty big leap you have to make. That and all of the scientific evidence, you know, shows that, yeah, absolutely, evolution is a thing. It still is. In adaptation, evolution, call it what you will, right? Creation still has a place in that story.
I never felt like the fact that you can see evolution negated anything for me.
Yeah. It took me a while to get there.
I was like, I don't know. I've never been afraid of science in that sense. I mean, even as a kid and in this really intense sort of view of God and view of our purpose and our purpose in like life. I don't know. I just felt like science gave us words for things versus like refuting, you know? Yeah. I think people thought that, you know, it's the times like this when, you know, all the things that are up here normally in my head are gone.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, you would think about something like bread getting moldy, and people thought that they didn't know why. And it was just because of the bacteria that forms when things are out there. It didn't like take away anything. It just gave words to the fact that if you leave bread out, it's going to get moldy. The Big Bang Theory, in a lot of ways, I mean, sure, it gave words to, you can look at it as a sense of it gave words to the, you know, let there be light. Mm-hmm. You can like think about it that way. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I just don't want to split hairs. I'm not worried about the proving. I'm just worried about like the transformation of, and like if it's moving me towards being more connected to people and the sort of majesty that is our existence. Like those are the things I'm sort of like working and talking about. I mean, I am sort of like, I love like researching like where things in the Bible come from. I mean, I'm like, even like now I've been reading books on hell.
Oh,
you know, just kind of like
deep, dark stuff there.
Well, because that guy Rob Bell wrote the book Love Wins, where he kind of questions the existence of hell, and then pretty quick after that, these two guys wrote like in response to that, and so I've been reading those to just kind of see, and it's been really interesting to like.
Wow, yeah, I gotta check that out.
It's interesting to feel like there's questions, and then there's questions, and there's questions you can ask, and there's questions you can't ask. And when someone says I can't ask that question, I immediately am going to be like, well, I'm probably going to ask it more.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? And have you had any like irrefutable experiences in your mind where you experienced God?
When I think about experiencing God, it's one of those things that's like really hard to put into words. And I think I'm okay with not doing that. You just have a feeling. I get, it's like when you get the goosebumps and the prickles on the neck. Those are those times. Most of the times I'm probably by myself, usually in nature. Sometimes it's an understanding. Sometimes there's just this sense, like when like after my dad died, some songs would come on, and that would be this feeling of like, okay, there was like something that was connecting me to him, but also everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, like that's kind of where I feel like I'm experiencing it.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I get the same thing. I think back to all the times I say, oh, that was probably God. Hey, there's always an alternative explanation, right? Human emotion, song comes on, or like just the sheer odds. But there's been a couple of times in my life where like God has moved me in a direction. And I'll tell one of the stories. It's pretty great. So you can't see me on the podcast, but I'm 6'4". I'm a very large human. And I joined the Navy. My dad was an attack pilot in the Navy, flew A-7s off of aircraft carriers and did heroic things. And I wanted nothing more than that for my entire life, as far back as I can remember. And so I joined. You know, I got a commission in the Navy after going to college and went to flight school. And the first thing they do in the Navy is you go to this ground school type building in Pensacola, and they measure you. And it doesn't really matter your overall height, but your dimensions, like your knee to your hip, your hip to your shoulder and your head, that matters. And for me, like I'm long in the torso, my sitting height was too tall for jets. So they said, nope, you're going to fly helicopters or P-3s. And that just like killed my soul and lit a fire in me. And so I just wouldn't take no for an answer. And there was no remeasuring me. Like, sorry, it's set in stone. You get this once, like you're going to go fly helicopters. Navy needs helicopter pilots. Nothing against helicopter pilots, but I wanted no part of that.
You wanted to fly the planes.
Yeah, and so I went to primary flight school, and I drew the short straw, and I got the exchange program with the Air Force, where I went through Air Force flight school, and someone from the Air Force went through Navy flight school. And for someone who doesn't know, it's a much better deal to go through flight school with the Navy because they treat you like an adult, and the Air Force treats you like a child. I would argue for the better. I think I became a better pilot for it, but overall, it's like grueling. You will fly twice a day. You will be at work for like 10 hours a day. You will not leave the building except for like a 10-minute lunch, and you will fly twice. Like, if you're not on the flight schedule, go to the beach. Do a little studying, go to the beach. And it's just a much better experience. So anyways, I go to this fancy Air Force base, flight school with the Air Force, and did really well. I loved every second of it. And just so happened, the multiple starred admiral in charge of naval aviation training was visiting Vance Air Force Base right at my graduation. And my squadron commander, went up to him and said, "Hey, I got this killer guy. He's top of his class. And he really wants to fly jets, but they measured him wrong. And I think he should get remeasured." And the admiral goes, "Sure, just send an email to my office. I'll get him remeasured."
Wow.
So they flew me back down to Pensacola, and the days leading up to that, I had my wife sitting on my shoulders. I wore like a super heavy backpack full of books and weights for like 2 or 3 days. Landed there, dehydrated myself, and I was like an inch and a half shorter. And then I flew jets for 10 years. But I equate that to knowing that there was divine intervention there, because that doesn't happen. Like, you don't ever get remeasured. Like, this was a pretty high probability or low probability of actually happening, to the point where I felt like there was a reason. And there's been numerous things that have followed there that I think have been why God wanted me to fly jets. But I was really blessed with a great career in the Navy. I flew F-18 Super Hornets. I eventually got to fly F-18 Charlies. I've flown in the back seat of numerous aircraft, landed on ships, deployed a few times. Never saw combat, fortunately and unfortunately, But it was definitely God's hand in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think those kind of things you can't explain.
No,
you can't. And
not at all.
I think I don't want to be the person that just goes, "No, it's just you just got lucky, or it was just chance." I don't know. There's too many things I think that are happening that are pointing to things like, something working in our lives. And, I think that it could have been, a lot of times people like to say you manifested that as well. That could be something too, but just like, that's a really cool story.
Yeah. Thank you. But I feel moved, I think, by the Spirit most when I'm just by myself in nature, in like just astounding beauty. And one of the places that has always manifested for me is when I'm scuba diving underwater on a coral reef. Like, I don't understand why biology would have evolved to make these crazy, colorful, structures on a piece of rock in the water, but and just millions of different beautiful fish. But man, it is moving to see that.
Yeah, sitting on the beach for me most of the times. Being in places that are so remote, and being just immersed in nature, you kind of feel I love nature works on such a system that's hard to feel that it's just like random chance that all got put together in this way. You can watch, trees grow, they die, they fall over, they become food for everything, and that food's in the soil, and then it grows another tree, and the rivers. It just there's too much going on for me to just say this is just a nice happy accident.
I'm with you there.
And but I'm also at the place of like, I don't care if people don't see how I see. I don't care if people don't understand how I see. And not in like a mean way, because however they see it's fine with me too. Because I think what we've gotten too far in that, like, we have to prove and I'm right, kind of mentality, which I'm trying to get kind of more distance myself from that, because that for me was incredibly toxic. And I think it doesn't forward ourselves any further or any closer to connection or like any closer to healing. It just draws lines in the sand. I think we have too many of those.
No, I'm with you there. And the more I grow and older, the less I want to be enemies with people. And so, this manifests primarily in like political views. Like everyone has their camp. And frankly, I think the reason this country is so great is because we have the ability to hold discourse, heated debate, and have differing opinions, yet still share core values of freedom, democracy, like life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, that kind of stuff. It matters.
Yeah.
And so when people disagree with me, like, whatever, like, I just won't talk about it in too much detail, or I won't like let it get under my skin. And I try not to be like combative. Generally speaking, I'm kind of a libertarian now. I just, after working so long in the government, I want less of it, because people think these leaders have it together, and they really do not.
Yeah.
Either just like you and I, except with a lot more power
and a lot more money usually.
Oh yeah, that usually follows, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in too many camps. We're too busy trying to talk about why the other side's wrong and we're right, and it's not doing anything for us.
And a lot of it's not practical.
No.
Like all of the issues, very little of it is practical to your life.
Yeah.
But you have an opinion, and that's the way that it's going to be.
And can any of these issues or problems be solved simply? No. I talked about how like a lot of the problems that we're facing are like these onions. There's just so many layers to it, and there's just not one way. Yeah. So. And
I view everything now through like you have to have some base level of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's God and my relationship with Him, and also the founding of our country and the Constitution. I obviously swore an oath to protect it, and I take that seriously. And so I view the American Constitution as one of the pillars of America's greatness, and the rights that affords American citizens. I mean, that is powerful stuff. And so the only thing that worries me is the idea of just end running the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So I equate everything. Well, how would the Constitution view this? And well, if we really want to make this change, it's going to take an amendment, which is going to take 2/3 of the states to ratify, which is like never going to happen. So why even bother? At some point, we're just going to have to let the government step back and let people work this out.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we could. I'd like to hold on to the hope that we could figure this stuff out instead of, because the cynical approach doesn't look that great.
No, it does not.
It never does. I mean, I don't know. I like to think that I'm more purple than red and blue.
Yeah.
I'm kind of both of them.
Yeah.
I see both sides, and I think more of us should be a little bit more purple.
I agree. There's a lot of people that are just way too opinionated.
Uh-huh. They are. Hold on one second. Yeah. It doesn't take... Recording it doesn't take very long. Or like going back to it.
Yeah.
Doesn't take very long. Basically, it's stream of consciousness. That's how I kind of approach this. I only edit it if there's anything that like comes up and you're like, I don't want that in there. I've only had to do that a couple of times.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But yeah, good stuff about your just approach to all of this is really cool. It's good to hear. You mentioned something about back seat. What does it mean to be the back seat? Is that like in Top Gun where you were the navigator telling them where the...
Yeah, so it depends on what community you're in. But nowadays, generally speaking, in the Air Force and the Navy, there's only a few platforms that still have two-seat cockpits, the F-15E, the F-18. And the way it works in the Navy is slightly different than the Air Force. So if you're in a two-seat aircraft, you work as a crew. So the back seat actually doesn't have like a stick and throttle at all. They have weapons controllers, so they can guide bombs in. They can operate radar, sensors, do a lot of the aircraft setup, but they actually don't fly. And I've done both. I was so I spent 3 years as a single seat guy, so one seat in an aircraft. Did a lot of that, which was great. I think it made me a better pilot. But Then I went to be an instructor, and I started to fly with more WISOs, which is what you call people in the backseat, weapon system operators. And I really just, it's just a lot more fun, I think, to fly with another human, be able to like talk trash about the guy next to you in the aircraft, or like, hey, are we doing this right? I don't know. Okay, good. Or, you know, did you hear what he said? Yeah, I did. He said this. Okay, you got it. And I really enjoy that. I think, like, as far as effectiveness goes, a good single seat pilot can kind of hold their own with a 2-seat crew. There's certain mission sets that require a 2-seat crew, but if I were to go back and do it, I've had so many excellent friends that were WISOs. Like, I would want to go to a 2-seat squadron.
Now, so it's not like a B squad thing. Like, you don't become the WISO out of, like, you weren't a good pilot.
No, not necessarily like quality of performance. It's usually like eyesight.
Oh,
because it takes you have to have like perfect eyesight to be a pilot, because you land on the boat at night and you got to see this tiny little thing way out there, and they're hard on that.
Yeah.
And nowadays with LASIK, and that's gotten a lot better, but a lot of the WISOs just had bad eyesight, and they're like star performers. Just they were dealt a bad hand.
Gotcha.
And so then you also see, every once in a while, you'll have someone that becomes a WISO that couldn't like land on the boat or something. Landing on the boat is it's a real like widowmaker, right? It definitely separates the chaff from the wheat, right?
And you had to do that?
Yeah, I mean, now it's gotten a lot easier. They've improved the flight control logic of the F-18 to make it a lot easier. It used to be, all manual. Now you have some help with computer stuff, but it is always hard landing on the boat.
What was do you remember your first one?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So when you graduate from primary flight school in the T6, which is a single-engine propeller plane, it's still super high performance. I think it had like 1,100 horsepower. It was great. It was fun. Make no mistake, that was a cool plane. But then you move on to the T-45, which is they call it the Goshawk. It's a single-engine jet, and then the Navy teaches you to just fly it. Then you learn to fight it, so air-to-ground, basic air-to-air stuff, and then you go land on the boat. And to land on the boat takes about 2 or 3 dozen what we call FCLPs, field carrier landing practice. And you go basically like pretend to land on the boat on the field over and over and over and over.
What do you mean on the field? Like, so you're like on land?
Yep. On a runway, they paint the deck of the carrier, which is really tiny, right on just like a small strip of it, and then you just fly what's called the IFLOS lens, the Improved Fresnel Optical Landing System. It's the meatball, the legendary meatball. You fly, it helps you with your glide slope. And you do that over and over and over again. Then you go to the boat for the first time solo in an aircraft. Yeah. So the very first time I ever landed on a boat solo, the very first time I was in the chute, I got waved off. I was just so screwed up. But then I came around and landed, and it's one of those things where it's just like you're on stem cell muscle memory. Like, I did this so many times at the field. It's the same sight picture, except there's a tiny little boat. And make no mistake, carriers, when you're landing on them, look tiny.
Puckers up your butthole a lot, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I have a video I can show you sometime of just a GoPro of a night landing, and you're like, there's a dot in this black frame, and then like the last like 15 seconds, it just like grows to be a ship, and then you crash into it, and you're there.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you fly this thing down, and when you trap, it's pretty violent. And you're going like 100 and I can't remember what the T-45 was, but
trap is when the rubber band essentially catches you.
Yeah, it looks like a rubber band.
Yeah.
It's
quote unquote rubber band.
4-inch steel wire. Yeah, with giant steam pneumatic brakes. But you go from like 150 to nothing in like a second. Right?
Wow.
Like the first few times you do it, you have like marks in your shoulders from the straps. Like when you hit it, it's fairly jarring.
I mean, landing in a regular plane in the airport is jarring.
Oh yeah, the other thing that people don't realize is, how when a pilot lands in an airline, they come down, you feel the jet sink, and then they kind of flatten out, and then they try and like touch down softly. Mm-hmm. When you land on the ship, there is no, that's called a flare. There is no flare. It's you fly at that same rate of descent until you touch the ground. It's like 700 to 800 feet per minute rate of descent, and when you hit, it hurt. It's hard. But they build those aircraft to have really strong landing gear, so you hit and it absorbs the shock. But it's still jarring. And night traps, even with the new, like they called it precision landing modes as a new flight control logic, still terrifying. I would, after landing, taxiing clear the landing area, my feet would always shake on the rudder pedals, just adrenaline and fear.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I only had 90 something night traps, but man, it was never fun.
How do you come down from that?
It's not easy.
Like you're,
yeah. Like you kind of lose the adrenaline after a while. I never lost the fear of night traps because your life is, I mean, you feel like you're going to die. You're landing on this dot and it just grows to be a ship at the last second. But the other thing is once you land, like, so on an F-18, the nose landing gear turns, right?
Yeah.
The actual pedestal is like a foot behind your butt. So you're in front of the nose landing gear and you need to park up on the bow of the ship at night. And there's, some like 20-year-old kid taxiing you with a couple yellow lights, wands, right? And all you can see those wands, and you can't see in front of you because it's just black, right? It's ocean. There's nothing out there. So you have to like taxi up to the edge of the ship and then turn your nose over it. Sometimes you're over the water as this 20-year-old kid is telling you like, yeah, keep going. I got you. And that right there is almost as bad as the night trap. Parking the jet.
I'm freaking out. You telling me this.
Yeah. And,
oh, wow.
But like testament to my brothers in the Navy, they like we do a good job of making it a profession. Like we are professionals at what we do, and there's procedure and there's mitigations for risk in every step of this process, and everyone's there with the same mission. You're on the same team, want to safely get aircraft aboard. So it becomes this process that so well that you could do it, on stem cells. Like your core knows how to do it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So it and there's just nothing that compares to landing on a ship. And it taking off, the catch shot is the best part, right? It's 0 to like 170 in like under 3 seconds. I mean, it's really fun.
Just shoot off
you
that
right off
ship.
the front of the ship.
Man.
Yeah.
Man, so you're turning, you pull up to the edge of the ship and you turn the plane around and you're right trusting that guy.
Yep.
Man.
It's one of the hardest things you got to do is just implicitly trust this other human right there. But you can't see much from the cockpit on the ship, right?
But he's seeing more than you can.
He sees everything.
Yeah.
But you're like, I have no idea where I am, how close I am to that edge. And he's telling me to keep going forward. At what point do I start turning? There's always that tendency to like start. But they know that, and there's a lot of responsibility put on them. They're trained well. And honestly, their job is just as hard as ours. Walking around the flight deck at night with moving aircraft is more dangerous than landing on the ship.
Sure, I bet.
You get blown over, you get hit with a wire. Like, there's a gajillion things that could happen. And you could get blown over and no one would know about it. Right? Like, talk about terrifying. I mean, they have beacons and stuff.
Oh, they have stuff that okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to hope that works. Oh, by the way, it takes a long time to pull someone out of the water.
They're going to be there for a while.
You still got to recover all the aircraft, right? You can't, they can't go divert somewhere if you're in the middle of the ocean. You still got to recover them, and then you got to get a helicopter over there to pick them up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool process. I had a good time doing it. It's so much time away from your family. And
was that the reason why you're out of it?
Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons. I don't want to get into the politics of the Navy, but like right now it's like just morale is low. It's been like that for years. You're seeing it in like retention numbers, and arguably you think people flying fighter jets would stick around, but like it's really hard on your family. All of the BS that comes with flying is really hard. It just wears on your soul, and the culture in the Navy, unfortunately, is they just don't take care of their people as well as they should. Like the human welfare is always the second and afterthought. And that was a big piece of it, but the biggest piece of it is I just can't be away from my family like that.
I get that.
A lot of time away. People don't realize a deployment, they usually schedule them for 6 months, but they're always extended. I mean, one of my buddies got this extended during COVID. I think it was over 12 months, and like they had like one port call. It was terrible. Yeah.
Just stuck on a ship for a year. And then working up to the deployment, you were probably away on the ship 4 to 6 months of the previous year. And then you're in like Fallon or another place you're
doing, training at for like another 2 to 3 months. So in like a 2 to 3 year tour, depending on your rotation, you're probably gone for half to 2/3 of that time.
Wow.
Yeah, that's hard. And only like a quarter of that or less is the deployment itself. So that's hard.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I love being an instructor and flying here. In fact, that's one of the things I want to talk to you about is someday I hope to go back to college and do my doctorate and something and become a professor. I think it'd be really cool to do that. But
yeah,
I just enjoy teaching so much.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, living here versus, in Georgia, you get to see, you see the impacts of being in the military.
Yeah.
It's a lot more, it's a lot, but you see it firsthand and it's like, geez, this is a lot.
Yeah, it ruins a lot of families.
Mm-hmm. I have a number of friends that are corpsmen.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So you got out. How long have you been out?
About 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another hard thing to do is get out.
Really?
They make it hard to get in and really hard to get out.
Man.
And
why?
Right now, so there's like the bureaucratic process. Like the Navy does not invest in like the facilities and people to help people get out.
Mm-hmm.
The VA does a pretty good job, but like when I got out, it was just at the start of COVID. Like there was like 2 people that could process my paperwork, and it was like pulling teeth to get them to do anything for me. Jeez. It was terrible. It was really hard to get out. And then the transition to like finding a job and everything. I'm unique in that I didn't, being 6'4", like I have no desire to fly airlines. I hate being in cattle class. Like everything about the airport just it's not fun to me. So
Mm-hmm.
But it is I have a lot of friends that do it. It's a great career and they make great money and they're home a lot. They're gone for most holidays for the first few years, but other than that, it's a pretty good life. But I wanted to be, what really set me apart was I just wanted to be fulfilled and to find a career of my own doing something that is meaningful. And it took a while to find that, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
It was not an easy transition.
So when you get out, is there a window? Like, let's say you're coming up on your last year. You I have until August to say I want to get out kind of thing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things. It's different for the enlisted than it is the officers because they generally sign shorter term contracts.
Oh, you were officer?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So when you're an officer, you sign, like for a pilot, it's an 8-year contract after you get your wings. 8 years.
Jeez.
You owe the Navy, and that's after 2 years of training. So it's really 10 years. And as you know, you retire at 20 with a pension.
Yeah.
So right about that time, they're talking about your next job being something in leadership. They're talking about hitting you with a big bonus, and they're really enticing you to stay. And so you have to tell them a year out before they start to billet you into your next role. And if you don't, they can basically hamstring you to stay in the Navy, legally do. It's insane, and it's happened to numerous friends of mine. But they can do some legal wizardry and keep you in, sort of against your will.
Wow,
scary, right? Yeah. So, anyways, you tell them you put your "Don't pick me" letter. Don't pick me for department head tour. And then they basically slate you nowadays because retention is so low. They'll put you in another flying job that's deployable for the last year.
Jeez,
it's really bad. I was very lucky. So in flight school, I had some medical issues. Turned out to be nothing, but I was med down for 6 months, and then you remember sequester in 2013, I think that was, when the government shut down and didn't fund. Well, that stopped flying for a year. So I basically sat in the training squadron for an extra year doing nothing. So
oh wow,
just studying every day. It was really boring. But that drove me to a timeline where I didn't have to do this last minute deployment right before I got out. So I had the best case scenario happen to me, where I was an instructor. I was great. My squadron commander was great. He said, "Hey, I know you want to get out, go start working job opportunities." And so I went and got my MBA while I was still instructing, and it was hard work. My butt off doing it between homework and flying, but it was awesome. I checked that block. And then the last few months, I was able to burn some leave and do a couple of very short internships. And so that helped. But
wow,
and it's really hard to get out of the Navy for most people. Like I'm telling you, I have friends that have had to like hire attorneys because the Navy tried to pull some loophole that, you know, we moved you for your last year, therefore you owe us 2 years after that. Like, what?
Oh gosh, yeah. That's wild. Yeah, I have a friend of mine. I think he's getting out soon, but he's getting his PA, physician's assistant degree right now. I don't know how you guys would do it, going to college and be doing your jobs. That's bananas.
Just a lot of time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my kids were really young, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Like those were the 2 a.m. still awake days.
Oh.
For the most of that.
Wow.
And so like I was like, well, I'm just gonna sit this kid on my lap, put a bottle in its mouth, and type on a keyboard. You know, write a paper. And it worked pretty well.
That's awesome.
I remember when the kid was like, I think it was Cece, my second kid, when I was doing the MBA. So Molly was like 2 or 3. She was just born, and I remember like dictating on my phone, like a paper I had to write, and the kid in my arm, like middle of the night. I was just in the other room, like, well, you're not asleep. I'm not asleep. I might as well talk. So I was like dictating the paper on my iPhone to Siri, writing it for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. The things we do as parents, like you learn to do with the kid.
That's right. You have to just push through and figure it out.
Yeah. So tell me about your dad.
My dad.
Or before you tell me, so your mom passed when you were 6. How'd she pass?
Car accident. Yeah. Drunk driver hit her. It was, it was obviously terrible at the time, but I think I grew up stronger for it. So again, I view it as God had a plan.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if I would have been as adventurous or like I probably would have remained like very timid and shy, and kind of forced me out of my bubble.
If you don't mind me asking, I think about this a couple times, with my dad passing and, having all these memories. Do you have many memories?
Not many. I mean, I was 6. So I have a few. Most of it was like sitting on her lap, watching TV, trying to fall asleep, or for some reason the memories that stuck in my mind were like, she got really stressed in the holidays. And I just remember her being stressed out about that. And I remember riding in like this crappy old van that we had. And just, we lived in California in a spot that was incredibly hot. I remember getting in there and like, it was probably like 150 in that stinking van. And like my skin was like sticking to a plastic car seat. Like very few memories, but all from very young age.
Yeah. Someone was telling me they remember a smell.
Oh yeah. I do too. That van. Like there was something about that. It just smelled like melted crayons and boogers,
But you just remember that? Yeah. The smell it's really funny how a smell can transport you back to that stuff. Yeah.
It gets me. It gets me every time I go. You ever been on the Wisconsin over there in Norfolk, the battleship?
Oh, that smell?
Yeah. Every ship smells like that. Even like brand new nuclear powered carriers. It smells like grease, BO, and boogers. Like, I don't know.
Man. Ugh.
Like misery. I don't know.
I was telling someone I was at a Taco Bell for the first time in years, and the smell of the inside of the Taco Bell took me back to childhood.
Yes. Oh, I love Taco Bell.
Yeah.
It's like a guilty pleasure of mine.
It's the one, like, I wanted to have it because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about bean and cheese burritos, and I'm trying to be, for the last, decade or so, like really intentional about food choices, and here I am at a Taco Bell and I was like, okay, I had it, I got it out of my system, and then I was like, I'm gonna just buy a bunch of stuff and try to make these at home anyway. So yeah, I digress. So yeah, your dad, tell me about him. What was he like?
Oh man, he's growing up, he was awesome. He was like my rock, my role model. I mean, from a young age, he took me out to the end of the runway and we watched fighter jets land when I was like probably 10. And they got me hook, line, and sinker, right? That was from that moment on, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And, he went through a really hard thing with the death of my mother, and then remarried to a woman that she ended up being bipolar. Like, and it was like really bad. I felt bad for him, and he really transformed in that period to embracing the church and like going all in on the church. That's when it like happened. and it was hard for him.
And
he worked through it. He was a single father, and he owned a business, like an entrepreneur. Like he's literally my hero. Did all the things that I want to accomplish in my life, and he pulled it off somehow. It was incredible. I don't know how. I don't know if I could have, but he did, and got us both into college, and ended up remarrying a lady, and she's awesome. And he to this day he's gotten very hardcore in his belief, and I don't know what has caused that, to the point where I don't see eye to eye on some of the things anymore.
How old is he?
Oh gosh, he's got to be almost 70 now. Yeah, so I think he had me a little later in life too.
And you have a brother. You have a brother?
A sister.
Oh, a sister. Okay.
One sister. She's awesome. She's an incredible entrepreneur. Just had twins. She's a beast. Like, this woman is, man. She's tough,
dude. The fact of twins is what kept us from trying for another kid, because twins runs a lot in both of our families.
Oh boy.
And we did not want to take that gamble, because my brothers are twins. I have 2 younger brothers that are twins.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, nope.
Yeah, they have, my sister and her husband. They're very. I love them to death. They're like my sisters. She's one of my heroes. She owns her own kids clothing store. It's called Minnows in Park City, Utah, and there's two locations now. She owns it and stood it up, like got it to profitability. Is doing great with it.
That's awesome.
While being a mother, and now a mother of twins. And Mike's a very successful real estate agent. Like that guy could sell ketchup popsicles to a woman in white gloves, right? Like
wow.
he's just like a great salesman and super awesome guy. And he's like I gotta admit, like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to spend all of this time with these 2 kids. So he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna put out at work and then hire a night nurse. And he did that, and like, holy cow, that is a game changer for them.
What's a night nurse?
It's literally a lady you pay to stay up with the babies that don't sleep at night for a few days a week. It's insanely expensive, but like, he crushed it. He just like worked tirelessly that while she was pregnant, and like saved up a bunch of money, and then hired a night nurse.
Jeez.
And Megan was like, it is a game changer. Like, just getting like not even because she has to get up and pump and everything. Like, Megan is a machine, but like. So
it's just someone to work nights and just hang out with the kids.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, and the 2 twin boys. So she's gonna have her hands full.
Yeah, she will.
10 years.
She will have her hands full.
Yep. Crew and Colton, adorable little suckers. I was just out there to see them. It was great.
Man, I mean, they must be doing well. They live in Park City, Utah. I mean, that's a resort town, right? Too.
Yeah. Well, that's Mike's. Just selling houses there.
Wow.
Yeah, and fortunately, like, the ultra wealthy that buy those houses, they buy them whether there's a recession or not and pay cash. So like, he's got them. He's brilliant. He's got a great market, a great job. Like, I'm glad he married my sister. He's a good dude.
That's awesome. So like, with your dad, is there anything that he did or does that you do when you're parenting? Have you noticed anything yet?
I mean, obviously, a lot of mannerisms. It's one of those things that drives me nuts because, like, I don't want to have the same mannerisms, but I do at the same time. But I think some of his values have bled onto me, right? Like, he put Megan and I, my sister and I, first in everything he did. And, like, it was always like that. Like, he ran a very successful business and was not one to, like, push us off to go and do work. Like, he would stop in the middle of, like, meetings and come be with us if we needed him or just wanted to see him or something. Like, he always put us first. It was really cool. And that, I think, really rubbed off on me. So I attempt to do everything I can with my kids. If there's a school function, I'll do everything I can to be with them, be there. Like, I want to teach them myself. I want to have those hard talks, not looking forward to them, but
was he there for the hard talks too?
Yeah, he never really did the birds and the bees or anything like that, but
lucky. Sorry.
Yeah. It was he kind of let public school do that, and whatever. He definitely did. Like, he had some really cool things. Like, I remember I was in like probably 11th grade, 10th grade, and I was like, doing wrestling at the same time as playing football. Like I was just swamped and super like pumped full of testosterone and like protein shakes. I mean, dude, I was like hardcore back then. And I like came home and just was like angry about something and just like punched a hole in the wall. I just remember him like coming out of his office with his headset on. And like poked his head and like saw me like storm into my room and like the hole in the wall. And I just like, I was in my room just fuming. And I just hear him like walk down the hall and I hear like some rustling and like a knock. And I was like, oh, what the heck? And I opened the door and he had like, while on the phone, talking on a business call, like pounded a nail and just hung a picture of it. This stupid little picture of Hawaii over this punched hole in the wall. I just remember that being like, that was pretty cool.
Like instead of talking to you, instead of yelling, instead of doing anything, he was just like, you know what? Let's just
never brought that up.
We'll let this one go today.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. The other thing that was pretty cool he did was I was really dumb. You know, I was like, you know, went out with a bunch of buddies, football buddies, one night, and we had the grand idea to go like egg cars as they drove by, and like we hit a truck full of off-duty cops with a bunch of eggs, and obviously they ran us down and caught us.
Yes,
like somehow got my dad's number and like called home, and I was like, I had just walked in the door, and I was like, I was a pretty like straightforward kid. I was gonna walk up and tell my dad like, oh, Dad, I'm kind of got in trouble here. So I like walk in the room and he's on the phone with these cops. And he's like, he did what? Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do to help? Oh, okay, gotcha. Have a nice night. You know, and he turns around and goes, he said something like, you think that was smart? And he's like, all right, get grounded for like next month, obviously. He's like, go away. Like, go be in your room. And just like, he was so chill about it. He obviously like came down on me, but he was like, you learned your lesson? That was incredibly stupid. Like, don't do that again.
God. Of all the people you could have egged, all the cars, you egged a cop car.
And then, like, he also, when I was in, it's like 7th grade, I snuck out one night. And I had, like, my room was unique. It was when my dad was remarried and had, like, a big family. And I was in, like, this random room with a sliding glass door and a balcony that, like, walked off into the road. It was really a weird house, but it was awesome. So I was like, well, I gotta capitalize on this. So I snuck out one night, in like 7th and 8th grade, and me and a bunch of buddies met up, and like we had one Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Oh, you rebels!
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was, man. I remember I had like 4 sips, and I was hammered, you know.
Yeah.
And I came back, and I was like, oh sweet, he didn't catch me. And I like lay down in bed and like go to lay down on just right on top of him.
Really?
Hey Nick, welcome back. Where you been?
Oh my gosh.
I remember this part very distinctly. Nick, look, I get it. You got to sneak out sometimes. He's like, but do me a favor. Just tell me before you do. He's like, I won't say anything. Just tell me before you do.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our kid has his where he sleeps is our old master bedroom, and it has a sliding glass door onto a porch. And I'm just like, we've got to get rid of that in the next few years. We have got to make it somewhat difficult for our kid to get out.
It.
Yeah, he cannot have it that easy.
Yeah.
To just like crawl out onto a porch, climb down, and he's gone.
Yeah.
That's not okay. You know?
This is a really cool house though.
Yeah.
It's in such a cool location too.
God. Your dad was in your bed.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like that was always my thing. Is everything he did was intentional to put Megan and I first, and I try to live like that with my kids as much as I can. It's not easy sometimes, but
sure,
I think, balancing that with your own like objectives, selfish objectives, career or accomplishments, that kind of stuff. It's really hard,
and it's got to be hard because I mean you're not close to your job.
No, I mean. It's not bad. I am very fortunate. So I work as a contractor for the Air Force, and I have to commute over a bridge. And without traffic, it's like 45 minutes, but about once every 2 weeks, it's a 2-hour drive because the traffic on that tunnel, it's just the worst.
Oh, I forget where you go. It's not that far.
No, and you know what? Like every time I go to a big city, I realize people commute like an hour pretty normally.
Yeah, when I was in Georgia, my first student teaching job was an hour and 15 minutes from my townhome.
Yeah,
Not fun. Not fun.
I listen to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks. I love listening to like fiction audiobooks, but lately I've been trying to listen to like great novels. So I've been knocking out a lot of famous novels, and I'm on Ayn Rand. You ever read her books?
Oh, geez, you're going deep.
They're deep, right?
I bet they are.
I read The Fountainhead. I'm on Atlas Shrugged now. That one's a lot deeper. But it's entertaining.
I mean, I love to read, and that's even like, I don't know if I'm ready to tackle that.
Yeah, it's a hard one. I had like a high school girlfriend that loved her novels and was always like, "You will love these," and I never read them until I was like 35.
Yeah, I mean,
started them this year and was just, oh, these are actually pretty good. This woman she wrote these in like the 50s, and she's had some pretty like novel ideas, like themes.
I feel like I could listen to it more than read it.
Yeah,
that's probably where I'm at.
It's a tough one to listen to too. It's
really
just so long. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm listening to the Silmarillion.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I just listened to the Lord of the Rings before this.
Yeah, that's what I'm into, because I'm just geeking out on all that stuff. I've recently got into the Nerd of the Rings on YouTube. Oh. It's this guy who goes through all the just the side stories and all of this, and I'm just constantly just like this guy. Yeah, right, this guy. No, that wrote. I mean, Tolkien just wrote so. It's so expansive.
Yeah,
I'm always amazed.
Me too. Like, how did
by his writing?
He must have done so many drugs. How did he come up with that?
He didn't do many drugs.
That just blows my mind.
It's fun to think about, like, because back in the day, him and C.S. Lewis used to just hang out together.
Yeah.
And
C.S. Lewis wrote, the Narnia books.
I mean,
they were my favorite books as a kid.
And it's just like those guys just hanging out, just talking about these things and what they became,
Yeah.
Whenever people tell me about how great Game of Thrones is, I'm always like,
it's nowhere near as good as the Lord of the Rings.
It's not for me. I gave up on Game of Thrones. I've been very like, I saw it to the end because I had watched so much of it, and I tried to read the books, and it never hooked me like the Lord of the Rings hooked me.
Me either. Yeah, I watched the movies or the HBO shows too, but I tried reading the books and I didn't get into it.
Yeah, I tried to watch the House of Dragons. And the House of Dragons came on the same time as Rings of Power came on, which is the prequel to all of...
I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, I would recommend watching that. I thought that how they did it was really cool. It had kind of the tone that I was looking for. I mean, some people... there's always critics about it, but I just really enjoyed seeing where everything came from.
Yeah.
And, But what I loved about it, because like in Game of Thrones, the biggest thing for me is I rarely ever feel like there's some good person that I can attach myself to. It's always just people trying to get the throne, right?
Yeah.
But then with the Lord of the Rings, you have like a good guy. Mm-hmm. You have a protagonist, and then you have people that you can like see as like quote unquote good, and you can like follow that storyline and see where they're going with it and trust where they're going with it and stuff like that. And so I was watching the House of Dragons, and it was the first episode, and I was like, man, this is intense. And I'm like an episode in, and I really don't like anybody. And then at the same time, Rings of Power come out, and then I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, yep, this is what I need. So I'm good. Yeah. I'm gonna watch that.
That's cool. I'll check it out. Do you like sci-fi?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So have you read Andy Weir's books?
He's the guy who wrote The Martian.
Yeah.
Haven't read him. Should I check him out?
Oh man, he's my new favorite author. So, The Martian was really good, but like I listened to it. I think the audiobook was better than the book.
Mm-hmm.
I read half the book and then did the audiobook because I was commuting. But the voices in the audiobook are really good. So highly recommend that one. And then my new favorite book of all time is Project Hail Mary. He just wrote that one. It is so good. The audiobook is killer.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, it's the voice of the guy from Finding Nemo, of Marlin. It's pretty good.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I got really into the Expanse series.
Oh, I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, it's the guy, they did a sci-fi show, but there's 9 books. Yeah, it's basically about Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, and people living in there and just trying to exist, and the politics of all of that.
Interesting.
They did a sci-fi series for it, and it was canceled, but it was pretty funny because Jeff Bezos loved it so much that he bought the rights and put it on Amazon Prime. So like the last 2 or 3 seasons is on Amazon Prime. It's pretty funny.
Good for him.
I like, see, when it for me, what gets me going in books is if I know there's like more than one, because I love to like immerse myself in it. So like that's why I read all the Orson Scott Card books. Have you read those? No. The Ender's Games?
Oh yes. Never. No, I know what you're talking about. I never read them.
Oh my gosh, I've read. There's 15 or 20 books in the Ender's Game universe, and you just it was great.
It keeps popping up on my Audible list. Because I read Ready Player One, which was also really good.
Yeah, I like that one. Ready Player 2 is fine.
Yeah, it wasn't as good, but it was good.
He also wrote a book called Armada that you should check out too.
Yeah, I've seen that. Pretty good.
I liked it. It's fun. It's not like, it's more like soda pop and bubblegum kind of stuff, but it's still it's fun to read. His books are very nostalgic, and that's kind of where he's tugging on your heartstrings with that one.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Have you read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Yes, of course.
That one was, to this day, one of my favorites. It's
my
just
favorite,
so goofy.
And that's one of my favorite books to movies that's been made.
Yeah,
because
I've never actually seen the movie.
Oh my God, Sam Rockwell plays the president.
Yeah,
in it, and what's his name? Oh my God, Mos Def, the rapper, is in it, and it's like it's, jeez, man.
Yeah, check it out.
Like I think it captured a lot of the tone of the book that I enjoyed it immensely. I think you should. Yeah. We could talk about books. I could talk about books all day. I mean, I've got hundreds of books, but we should. Should. So, like, what's been the funniest thing about parenting?
Oh gosh,
so far.
The funniest thing. There's so much that's funny with these little kids. The stuff they say is just ridiculous. I'm trying to think of some good examples. I think what's really funny is like their infatuation with feces and farts. You could just like, they could be so pissed and just miserable, and then you just say like "poo poo farty butt," and they'll just like snap out of it and start cracking up. That's always great. And it's a double-edged sword, because then you say that and then they don't stop saying it for the next 2 hours.
It's good to hear. I thought it was a boy thing.
Oh no, girls are just as much. They think farting is hilarious. So, and I always blame it on the cat, and they think that's hilarious.
Really?
Oh yeah. The cat. Who brought Snugs? Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
What else is funny? Cece's. She's 5, and so every once in a while she says some things that are just like so ridiculous. She said hamburger the other day, and I about lost it.
Hamburger. Yeah. Man, the things I love, I love how they're figuring out words.
Yeah.
At these ages, and how they're trying to use the words and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, it's great. Have they cussed yet around you?
Molly has a couple times.
Yeah.
Not much. She's so smart. She learns really quick when I like, please don't say that. Okay. And then never says it again.
Man, yeah.
And I still can't stop cussing. You know, maybe it's the sailor in me, but like, it's hard.
My kid has cussed in school.
Oh.
And that was fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but
was it at friend's school or?
Yeah, it was. He said,
walk down the hall and talk to your dad.
No, this was this year when I wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
But his teachers knew me, so they weren't so surprised. They've heard me. Yeah. But he said the F word. Ooh. And what was so funny about it is because when he said it, it was more of a surprise. He said, "What in the fucking world?" Or something like that. And then all of a sudden the kids were like, he said that. You can't say that. And so what the teachers told me at the conference was that what ended up was that the entire class was saying it. So it just became this thing. Like Jasper said it, and they all said it, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So anyway, that's been the funniest thing for me, is just listening to him listening to him cuss. And we talk about it. Well, you can't say that at school.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I also love watching like the magic of Christmas. And,
really?
Like, believing in Santa, and they just like love that.
Uh-huh.
And Molly's so smart. She's like kind of figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she has it truly licked yet, but she keeps asking these like really hard questions. Well, if Santa knows everything, then why do I need to write him a letter? Like, he already knows what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Or like,
God, I love it.
How come I saw Santa at the store the other day? Like, what? Why was he shopping? He has elves. Do you guys do the elf on the shelf?
No.
Yeah, we don't either.
I don't. That it's too much work.
My wife said, "Heck no." If it, yeah, I wanted to do it, but she didn't want to have to do the work, and I travel a lot for work, so.
Yeah, they used to do it at the school, and I would take the other classes' elves and say that like someone was holding them hostage, and there'd be like a note in the class or something. So, yeah, I like to take things weird when it comes to like the Christmas traditions.
Well, yeah, I remember Molly came back. She's like, "Oh, Mr. C's favorite music is metal." You
Yep.
know what metal is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he played some for us.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of. Some of my socks were bands.
Yeah.
And so when I would play, when I would show the socks, they would want to know what the band was, and so then I would play the music. Yeah,
the kids loved you.
My favorite thing was I would always be like, all right, guys, we're going to do some, work on some stuff. I'm going to put on some quiet music, and I just want you to just kind of like relax and chill. And then I would think about what's the heaviest thing that I could like play, and I would just turn my Bluetooth speaker all the way up and just blast it. And the kids it always had the reaction that I wanted. And there would be some kids that would just be like working like nothing's happening, and there's other kids just looking like, what is wrong with this guy? Mm-hmm.
That's probably Molly.
Well, I did it, and this is going to be incredible conversation, but I used to do it in her class because of that was just those kids' personalities.
Yeah.
That I could do stuff like that, and they would just be like, all right, whatever. This is just another day in class.
Yeah.
This guy who's our teacher is going to do weird things, and we're just going to.
Well, they love that about you, I think.
I appreciate that, yeah.
Out of the ordinary, and you were very personable. And Molly, to this day, was, she loves math because of you. So that's
Stop
good.
it. Yeah. That it took me 5 semesters to get out of one math class in college.
Really?
Math was the worst subject of my entire life.
And then you taught it.
I know. I think that you talk about, God intervening or divine intervention, all of that. I think that was one of the reasons why I was able to connect with kids and to show them that math isn't a scary monster.
Yeah. That's good.
I grew up hating it. Yeah, I was almost suspended for college for 3 years because I couldn't get out of the math class.
What?
Yeah, I got to school. So I got to school on the first day of this semester, whatever. I get to my first class in the morning, and I'm not on the roll. And I was like, you didn't call me. She's like, okay, well, you need to go here. And so I went somewhere to talk, and they're like, well, you need to go here. And like 4 hours later of lines, they're like, oh, yeah, you were in learning support, because that's what I was, in a learning support math class, and you didn't get the grade that you were supposed to, so you've been suspended for 3 years. And I was like, what? I've been suspended for 3 years? And I was like, nobody's told me that. And they were like, okay. So then they pulled some strings, and so then I was only able to take that one class for that one semester. It was basically like an audit, not really an audit. I had to pass it, and if I didn't pass it, that was it. So, but here I am.
And you taught math.
And I taught math.
That's good. You did a heck of a job.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Man, math was always my strongest subject. I love it.
Well, math is one of those subjects where like a lot of people struggle teaching it because they don't understand why other people don't get it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think I figured my observation was because I knew that not many people got it, that I could kind of help them work through it. that I didn't make these people feel crazy. So
that makes sense. It's good you can identify with them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've watched when the kids would cry over math problems. I'd be like, yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
I did that as an adult.
I know. Can you imagine being in your 20s and scared to go to school? Yeah. So let's try not to get that going now. So it's going to be okay. You'll figure it out, kid.
Did you get a degree in math, or what was the...
No, my degree was in early childhood education.
Oh, good.
I just happened to, they had a job opening for this. And when you get an early childhood education degree, you're basically certified in every subject up to a certain level.
Cool.
Yeah. So like I could teach math to 5th graders and below.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part where it really clicks with them.
Yeah.
I like that. Molly's like I've been working with her, and she's so smart. Mm-hmm. Like their ability to retain information is insane. Like that's the one thing that has impressed me most about Norfolk Christian is, man, these kids will memorize like in almost an entire book of scripture. Like it's crazy, and like Molly recites it without any effort.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of people who start teaching kids languages this early.
I wish I had something to teach them like that. I teach, I got Molly through multiplication, and she knows up to 9 by 9.
Wow.
Yeah, she loved it. I'd entice her with points. Well, the app I wrote.
Oh yeah,
it's just a super simple app. Just give your kid a point, and the point is worth 25 cents. Those kids are little capitalists now, man.
Yeah. So tell me about this app that you wrote.
Yes, I write apps for fun. It's kind of like my hobby. I've always been like one that kind of got hooked on video games. As an adult, I channeled that into learning to code, and it scratches the itch. So I wrote the only app that's on the App Store right now it's called Kiddie Bank. It's $1. It's super basic. Literally just keeps track of points for your kids, and you can sync it across your phone and your wife's phone. Mm-hmm. So like I give a point and it shows up on her phone as well. And it's nice because then I could say, hey, Molly, if I ask you to do something, if you say yes, sir, and do it, you get a point. And if you don't, you lose a point. And now like they behave a lot better. And grandma sends them $20 in the mail or whatever. I say, okay, you put it in your daddy bank. I'll put it in my wallet and I'll add it to your account.
So does it link to your bank?
Nope. Just you put it in your wallet, and then you have the number. It just keeps track of the number. So,
it's called Kiddie Bank?
Yeah, Kiddie Bank.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then I actually, what's fun about it is, I wrote it just to learn about how to put an app on the App Store, and it's a real pain in the butt. There's a lot that goes into it. Mm-hmm. And then, like, the other day, I use Google as my back-end servers. One of the Google servers was down, and I had like a random person reach out to me who found the app like on the App Store, like one of my friends. I was like, what? So I was like going back and forth with this lady. It's like, how did you find this? She's like, oh, I just searched and you popped up. You looked good. I was like, that's so cool. I've sold like 30 copies. So
it's such a cool thing. Like when the first person that is not a friend, that like reaches out. Like I did this on the podcast too. When this one person like found me, and was like, hey, I'd like to be on the podcast. It's just this random author.
That's cool. Yeah.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I'm working on another one that it's called In Touch AI. Not the greatest name. Trying to figure out a better one, but they were all taken. And what it is like you import your contacts from your contact library, and then you can add dates for special things like birthdays, anniversaries, or just like a periodic check-in with them. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it notifies you on the day of that event, and then it drafts 5 messages for you using ChatGPT style AI, and it tailors based on your relationship with them. So if I added you, I'd say like, used to be a teacher, is currently a podcaster, and if it was your birthday, I'd put in your day, and then it would tailor a message. I could put, I want it funny, and I want it short, and I want to use emojis, and I want to use historical references or cultural references.
Jeez.
And then that day it'll say funny things like, hey, Mr. C, hope you're having a great day podcasting. And like, they're barely funny. And then all you gotta do is click it, and it loads it in your messages, and you hit send. And then it starts a conversation with your friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
And cool. You just do these things for fun.
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to do this one?
I don't know. It's kind of like jumping on the AI craze. I was trying to figure out an application that I could do that uses AI, and this was the only thing I could really come up with. But I'm terrible at keeping in touch with my friends, so I figured if I just do this, then like on their birthdays, I have no excuse other than to like click a button. The problem is they all know I use it. So when I send them a message that's like really well written, they're like, "That was your app, wasn't it?"
And you could be like, "Hey, at least I'm reaching out. At least I'm trying."
Yeah. So like, if you use it, don't tell your friends that you use it.
Yeah.
And they'll just be like, "Wow, he always remembers," and they're always the most thoughtful messages.
Yeah, I'm gonna get at Kiddie Bank, and so you just do the points, and then
Works really well. Yeah.
that's cool.
The best part is it plays a sound, right? Because that's what the kids care about.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting a point, so it's incredibly simple. Oh, there's no service up here.
It should be. Yeah, there it is.
There you go. And so all you got to do, there's a little button down here, turns the volume up. Like, good job, Molly.
Oh, that's like, cool.
Nope, that was not right. And like that works really well.
Oh yeah, they don't. That's. I mean, even for me, I was like, I don't want to hear that buzzer.
Yeah, and in the next week, I'm going to release an update that you can just go, "Hey Siri, add a point for Molly." Yeah, they'll love that. It's in submission right now. So
definitely gonna check that out. That's awesome. So what's it's so funny to me that you're like, I'm just developing apps for fun.
Yeah,
it's just what I do.
It prevents me from playing video games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like feeds my addiction.
So what's been kind of the hardest thing about parenting?
Oh gosh. I don't know. The hardest thing for me has probably been, I'm just not an empathetic person.
Yeah.
I'm a logical, I'm like a very like masculine man. Like it's hard for me to identify with little sensitive girly girls. And Molly is very sensitive. And it's been very hard for me to learn that I have to approach things differently because she's so sensitive that if I just say like, suck it up, buttercup, which is what I would tell a boy, like it isn't going to work with her. And this kind of manifested when she was really little. Like she would throw like multiple hour-long tantrums, like epic tantrums. And like Cece was just not like that. Like Cece she threw a tantrum and then I'd be like, shiny object, and then she'd snap out of it, 2 minutes later. But Molly would you couldn't get her out of it. Once she got going, it was game over for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then we found out it was just because she's just a very sensitive child. That's been very hard for me. I'm just not like that. Not in touch with my feelings.
I mean, empathy's hard for anybody.
Yeah. I think empathy is like the core of that. My wife is very good at that, fortunately.
Most of them are.
She's like my perfect compliment in that.
Yeah.
Like I have to remind her, you gotta tell me because I just don't know.
Yeah.
Be blunt about it, please. If you got to hit me, please hit me. Do whatever it takes because I don't understand this stuff.
It's interesting because I'm not logical at all.
Really?
Yeah, the way that you. I mean, that's alien. It's alien to me to think that way.
Yeah. I'm like Spock sometimes. Where it just doesn't make sense to be emotional about this. It's not going to benefit anyone. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me because then the little ones are just like little emotional train wrecks if something happens. And
yeah, it's hard for me to just be just doing things. Just do the things. Just do the thing.
Yeah.
I'm always like, what does it all mean?
Yeah, and it's been good in some ways because I can deal with stress very well.
Yeah.
But I also it's hard to maintain relationships with people that aren't like that. Mm-hmm. They just don't see eye to eye.
Yeah. So what's something that scares you about being a dad? Things that keep you up at night, those type of things.
I mean, obviously the health and welfare of the kids, but I think one thing that scares me is just them not believing in me anymore, not being the leader of the family, right? Failing them. I think is the big thing that scares me. And I don't have a specific fear of what that failure would look like, but that'd be the worst thing that could happen to me,
Wow, no one's ever said that on here, and I think that's one thing that I think a lot of us think about, not being that person.
Yeah. Not being the rock in the family, I think. The blessing and the curse of my lack of emotion is that I'm like the rock, right? I got to be steady. And I want to make sure that the decisions I don't make and the risks I incur don't impact them negatively. I think that's That's my biggest fear.
Mm.
I think along with that, not necessarily with directly in regards to my children, but like my other biggest fear is not prioritizing my wife. Right? Relationships are hard. It's especially years and years of marriage. Like my wife she's a saint for putting up with half the stuff she does with me, and she is like the perfect complement for everything I am. She's like, we work as great as a team, and I just worry that like I'm not prioritizing her enough sometimes, and she's just not one to tell me. She's just so even keeled and patient with me and gracious that like I don't know if she would, and that worries me.
Well, you also got to think too, like life just goes. Yeah. We could blink and 4 months have passed. It's not because of anything more than just our plates are full.
Yeah.
You've got work, you've got kids to do things, and there's this and there's that, and then it's rinse, repeat, and you're doing the same thing again, and before you know it, like there goes that week, and then that week turns into a month, into a year, and I think
that's right.
I mean, I think about that too, and I think the awareness is the key. That's awareness is, just being aware that you're thinking about that, and it's like nothing. You have to force the time for anything once you have a family.
That's right. You really do. You have to prioritize things that you normally wouldn't need to. That would just come naturally.
Like when before kids or whatever, you're just like, no, it's a Tuesday. We'll just go do it then.
That's right.
Yeah. When you have kids, and like my wife has 2 offices. And that kind of thing. It's like, no, it's like we've got to plan things months in advance.
Yeah, like a date night. There's a lot of logistics that go into that.
Oh my gosh, you got to find a babysitter.
Yeah, it costs twice as much
that
now.
Costs that, yeah. And so then you got to make sure you're budgeting for the babysitter, and then where you're going to go and how long. And then, I mean, there's all sorts of things that go into it.
Exactly. Things you don't think about as a kid. You're like, oh, I'm going to be married. It's going to be great. I got my person. And then you realize that like you spend so much time with that person. Things become hard and routine and like not interesting anymore, and you have to make them interesting.
Yeah, then you got to figure it out, and then I mean it's almost like seasons.
Yeah,
the things that we were into as adults, we're probably not into it now.
That's exactly right.
Man,
yeah, keeping things interesting is always fun because I tend to overdo it.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit too much.
Have you heard of those? Instagram popping up those cards that you buy that are like you like scratch off, and each scratch off is a different type of date.
No.
And you like shuffle the deck, and then you choose, and then you scratch it off, and then you have to do whatever's on there.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
It could be. Yeah. It looks fun. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get some of those.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of us think about that. Making sure we're prioritizing the wife, making sure we're putting people first. I mean, we're a lot harder on ourselves than anyone else is going to be.
You're absolutely right.
You just kind of got to be aware and make the decisions and trust it's going to work.
That's right.
So how do you find time for yourself? How do you find like balance? Like what do you do for these type of things to find some sense of balance?
I don't sleep a lot.
Really?
Well, I'm pretty fortunate in that like while I have a longer commute, like my job's pretty flexible. Like I can generally speaking, I work on a classified setting, so when I plan an unclassified call, I take it from my phone in the car because like I have an hour in a car to just like talk and listen if I have to. So I plan things around that so I can leave a little earlier and take like my last few calls in the car, and that gives me time. I get home, I hang out with the kids until dinner, get them to bed, and then I go and do a little bit helping Jess with cleanup, and then I code. Right, I get like an hour or two of coding a night, and that's like recharges me enough. And then I go and lay down when Jess puts on a rom-com, and I fall asleep within 10 minutes. Lather, rinse, repeat.
What is it about coding that you just I don't like? For me, I just say that it's like to me that looks so foreign, just sitting there and just coding.
Yeah, you ever use Sudoku or like it's like that solving of a puzzle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like that, but over and over and over, and like bigger and more complicated, and it's Do you play video games at all?
Sometimes.
You know how like you get going in a video game, like it wires you, and you like have to come down from it. It's the same thing with me. Like if I'm coding hardcore, I have trouble falling asleep because I'll just be running through scenarios in my mind, and I'll have like breakthroughs when I'm laying there in bed, like, oh, that's what I missed. Like,
I'm like that with writing now.
Yeah.
So I have little notebooks everywhere.
See, I could never do that. Writing was just like so hard for me.
Yeah, I have a little notebook by my bed in case something pops up. I have a notebook that's in my pocket. It's not here because it's on my table somewhere because I was writing in it earlier.
Yeah.
Because I find that things come in all sorts of times, and I just need to make sure I have it written down. It could be something or could not be something, but
yeah, it's good. Yeah. I'm the same way. I have to write it down or I won't remember it. I use the notes app on my phone. I'll just dictate to it.
Yeah, I do that too.
But writing, like the game has changed for like your school level of writing with ChatGPT and Grammarly.
Oh God, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that.
Man, that's hard.
Oh man, because you see what people write with those things.
It writes so well.
Yeah,
I use it for work. Like, dude, I'll like have a paper I need to write on some technical thing, and I'll just be like, hey, I need these 4 points to be made in 4 paragraphs. And it's like, and then I'll take it, copy and paste it into Grammarly, and then it'll fix all things, make it sound a little smarter. And I'm not a talented writer by no means, but I get accolades when I write stuff because I'm using the tools at my disposal.
You know what nobody's saying? This is how Terminator started.
That's exactly right.
This is Skynet became self-aware. They came on, and here we are just using it for
step one.
It is, man. We're all a part. We're all a part of the machine.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the Matrix. Plug me in.
And all of a sudden, Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to burst through this door and shut us up right now.
Yeah. Right.
So, what do you view your role as a dad? Or what does being a dad mean to you? Is it like guider, facilitator, protector?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't necessarily view it as a role. I view it as more of a relationship with my little buddies. Right? I just want to I want to see them do the best that they can do. And I want to provide them with the tools and the knowledge to get there.
Yeah.
And the experiences to enjoy it along the way. So I don't know. Maybe that's more of a mentor. That's what I hope to be in their lives. I don't know. There's so little that right now it's sit down, eat your food, try new things, simple things like that. But
please eat your food. God, just please eat your food.
Molly's getting to the point where she's smart enough where she asks relatively hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things she can read really well, so she'll be like, Dad, what does this mean? Why does it say that? And you go down some rabbit hole from some sign on the side of the road.
That's crazy. I like that you said relationship. I think a lot of us, that's what we wanted.
Yeah. That's right. And I just want to make sure I fill that gap so some teenage horny boy doesn't down the road. That's my goal. So I want to make sure that I am their first and foremost thought for as long as I can be.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So real quick, what was the name of your app again?
Kiddie Bank.
Kiddie Bank.
99 cents on the App Store. Unlike most apps, you just pay once.
Oh, yeah, and there's no hidden, you get to a certain level like these games.
Oh, yeah, I'm making millions on this app, too. I think I've made like $17 to date. It's pretty good.
Oh. Hey, that's $17 you didn't have.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can almost buy a meal with that.
You could. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
I'm glad you were wanting to do this. This was such a rad conversation.
Yeah, it's good.
We covered lots of topics, and I really enjoyed the fighter pilot, all that talk. I mean, there's the little kid in me that watched Top Gun, and that it scratched an itch.
Yeah, man. Anytime you want to talk about it, I'll tell you all kinds of stories and show you videos.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks, guys, for listening. Appreciate all the support. Be excellent to each other. And this concludes another Dad Talk episode on the Balanced Male Podcast.